So we are going to do 3 examples of a decimal being divided by another decimal. Now, whenever we divide decimals, we do not like the number on the outside of our box when we do the long division. We do not like it to have any decimals in it. And let me show you what I mean. When I write this for long division, the first number goes inside the box, right? So I have my long division here. I have 0.36 on the inside and 0.12 on the outside. So we do not like this number to have a decimal that is not at the end where it doesn't really matter, right? So what I can do to basically get rid of this decimal or get it where I want it to be is I can move it over twice. Now, the catch is if I do it to this number, I have to also do it to the other number. So I moved this twice to the right. So I also need to move this one twice to the right. And then it becomes 12 being divided into 36. Now, if you're like, okay, why was that allowed? Why doesn't that change my answer? That's a fantastic question. I want you to think for 2 seconds. If I had 10 divided by 5, that's 2, right? Well, now I want you to imagine that I move the decimal over once on 10 to make it 100, and I move it over once on 5 to make it 50. Well, 100 divided by 50 is also 2. So because we moved it on both the numbers, my answer is going to be the same. That's why we are allowed to do that. So now when I say, okay, how many times does 12 go into 36? Well, it goes 3 times. 3 times 12 gives me 36. Subtract, I'm left with 0. So 0.36 divided by 0.12 is 3. Not too shabby, right? Let's go ahead and look at this one. So we are dividing 0.4 by 0.32. So 0.4 goes inside of the box and 0.32 goes on the outside. Remember, I do not like this number to have a decimal right here. So I'm going to move it over twice so it's on the back. If I do it to that one, I got to do it to this one. Move that over twice. If there's not a number, guess what? We just stick a 0 right there. So this turns into 32 on the outside and 40 on the inside. Now let's go ahead and divide this. So how many times does 32 go into 40? Well, it goes once. 1 times 32 gives me 32. Minus, I get 8. Now, this is where when you first learned long division, you would say 1 remainder 8, right? That's not incorrect, but as we get into higher levels of math, we don't really like remainders anymore. We like our answer to be a decimal. So what I can do now that there's no other numbers to bring down is remember that decimal is right there, and I can do 0.0. That doesn't change my number, right? And I can pull that 0 down. So now I'm asking, how many times does 32 go into 80? Well, it goes twice. And the thing I cannot forget is that this decimal needs to be in the same place up in my answer, okay? 2 times 32 gives me 64. And when I subtract that, I end up with 16. Now, I don't want to do 1.2 remainder 16. That'd be kind of a lame answer. So I'm going to add another 0, bring it down. How many times does 32 go into 160? It goes in 5 times. 5 times 32 gives me 160. And I subtract and get 0. Yay! So my answer, 0.4 divided by 0.32, is 1.25. Awesome. Okay, let's go ahead and do this one. If you do want to pause the video for a minute and try it on your own and then watch me do it, I mean, you don't have to, but I think it's a pretty good idea. All right, so 0.28 divided by 0.8. So this number goes on the outside, this one on the inside, right? So I've got 0.8. And I am dividing that into 0.28. I don't want this number to have a decimal, so I am going to move it over. I mean, it still has one, but it's not in our way anymore. If I move that one over once, I gotta move this one over once as well. So then I end up with 8 being divided into 2.8. Now, if just out of habit from these last two, or you didn't want this one to have a decimal, if you moved it over twice and are doing 80 into 28, guess what? You're still going to get the same answer. So there you go. All right. How many times does 8 go into, we can think of it as 28 because I'm putting this decimal up here. How many times is 8 going to 28? Well, it goes in 3 times. 3 times 8 is 24. And when I subtract that, I get 4. Okay. I don't want to put 0.3 remainder 4, so I'm going to add a 0 here. Because it's behind the decimal, I can do that. So bring that down. 8 goes into 45 times. 5 times 8 is ding, 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 40. So when I subtract that, I get 0. So guess what? 0.28 divided by 0.8 is 0.35. There we go. All right, good work. If you need some more decimal videos, I will link a playlist. Thanks.